solution, and today I'm going to be talking about the best MacBook you can buy for designers in 2020. Starting with the comparison, the MacBook Air with the M1 chip comes with three colors: gold, silver, and space gray. But whereas the MacBook Pro lacks the gold color, so it only has silver and space gray. Moving on to the display, it has a 13.3-inch. The MacBook Air and MacBook Pro has a 13-inch diagonal LED backlit display with IPS technology. It's the same thing with the Mac Pro surprisingly as well. The battery life of the MacBook Air comes to about 15 hours of wireless web and 18 hours of Apple TV app playback. Whereas moving on to the MacBook Pro, it has up to 17 hours of wireless web and has up to 20 hours of Apple TV app movie playback. Now let's see the variants and chip specs of the MacBook Air M1. So, the first variant of the MacBook Air M1 has 8-core CPU with four powerful cores and 4 efficiency cores, and it has a 7-core GPU. And the second variant has again a 8-core CPU with four powerful cores and 4 efficient cores, and it comes with 8 cores of 8. The GPU comes with 8 cores. Now let's see the variants and chip specs of the MacBook Pro. So the first variant has a 8-core CPU. Just like the MacBook Air, it has a 8-core CPU, 4 powerful cores and 4 efficiency cores, and a 8-core GPU. And the second variant has the same chip specs as the first variant, surprisingly, but it has a higher grade of storage space. Moving on, the MacBook Air has only 8 gigabytes of memory. Only that, and the MacBook Pro has 8 gigabytes of memory, or you can expand the memory to 16 gigabytes. Now let's see the storage of both computers. The first storage we are going to see is the MacBook Air storage. How much storage can it hold? So the first variant has 258 gigabytes of storage base for the MacBook Air, and that is expandable to 512 gigabytes of storage, and that can be expanded to 1 terabyte and 2 terabytes of storage. And the second variant of the MacBook Air it can have 512 gigabytes of storage, 1 terabyte of storage, or 2 terabytes of storage. Now let's see the keyboard, what the keyboard has to offer to us. So the keyboard in all the MacBook Airs is a Magic Keyboard scissor type. So it has a scissor type keys, and it has a Touch ID sensor, so you can unlock your computer. And the keyboard in the MacBook Pro is a Magic Keyboard scissor type with Touch ID and a touch bar. Now you may be thinking, what's a GPU and the scissor type keyboard? Well, a GPU is basically a processing unit that handles all the graphics that is being done by your computer. And a scissor type keyboard is a keyboard Apple developed, and it is a very good type of keyboard. Looks like I also forgot to tell you what is a Magic Keyboard. It's actually very simple. A Magic Keyboard is just the way Apple branded all their computer keyboards. For example, the iMac has a Magic Keyboard, the iPad has a Magic Keyboard, and the Macbooks also have Magic Keyboards. It's just a way of branding their keyboards. Now, you already heard enough for specs. Let's just see what these computers are and who they are for. So the MacBook Air has a very powerful it has a very powerful CPU and GPU. But the problem is this time Apple didn't include any fans in this MacBook Air. So in case if we are doing design work continuously for say like 1 hour, then the CPU will start to get slow so that it doesn't need any ventilation. So this computer isn't for people who are designing continuously for 1 hour like that. But if you are just designing for say 10 minutes, 20 minutes, then I'm sure this MacBook Air will be just good for you. It will be just fine for you. But the MacBook Air has one fan, so it can handle extended workloads. So if you are designing continuously for 1 hour, say 1 hour, then this MacBook Pro will be for you. It's easy to think the MacBook Pro is a direct option, but there's a lot more to finding the perfect computer just for you. This is me, Dilshan, logging out.